And we are grateful for that free will, and we give you honor and praise for that. But we also welcome a challenge from time to time. We welcome the opportunity to reflect. We welcome the opportunity to consider. We welcome the opportunity to think through what it might look or feel like to move. Father, we ask for two very simple things. Would you give us clarity on what you want from us? And then would you give us courage to do something about what we become clear on? That's what we ask this morning. And we ask those things in the name of Jesus. Amen. You have a seat. So how does it feel? How does it feel to live in a championship city? You know what I'm talking about? How does it feel to live in a championship city? Come on. Let's do the chop right now. Oh, I'm telling you, good gracious alive. World Series champs, baby. You know what I'm talking about? Chop on. Yes, right, chop on. Good gracious. Man, I'm so excited about it. Now, I know all you haters out there is like, well, have you seen how they've gotten started? Acuna ain't even in the lineup yet, kid, okay? Just give it a second. Let Chapman settle in. Let Acuna come back, and we're going to be all to the races. I tell you what, championships. Now, I don't know if have y'all seen the ring yet? Have you seen the championship ring for them Braves? Oh, man. Man, I saw it, and I was like, golly, I got to get me one of those. Turns out you can. 150 people, 150 folks can get on the Jostens website, and you can purchase an authentic, like legit, there's only 150 of them, legit World Series championship ring for $25,000. Hey, we believe in miracles, okay? So y'all just need to chill. Don't give me that, Man, it's 10-karat yellow gold, 224 diamonds, 4 rubies, and 1 Jock Peterson pearl. Come on. You know, we got some equity in the house, and so I haven't told Brooke, but I was thinking maybe I could combine a couple Christmases and some anniversaries, put it all in one and just call it even, maybe, I don't know. No, it's not doable. It ain't doable. But they do have a little step-down version. I don't know if y'all know this or not. They got a step-down version. For the low price of $699, you can get the cubic zirconia. It's still gold, but you get the cubic zirconias in there, you know what I'm saying? You can still walk around with that bad boy. You put that thing on your ring finger, and it's not as heavy, but it carries a lot of championship weight to it. You know what I'm talking about? $699. Give me one of them. Well, the thing is that they had them given out for free the other night of the game, I want one of them things so bad. I was like, hey, come on, let me get one of them rings real quick, But then everybody wanted the ring. Right? Everybody wanted one. And the people who didn't want them, they got them. They put them on eBay for like $200. And it's like, man, ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot. Kids don't need nothing. They don't need nothing. They don't need summer clothes. I need a championship ring to put on my desk. This World Series championship ring broke records. First ring to ever have LED lights in it. You know what I'm talking about? That's how we do it in A-Town. You know what I'm saying? That's how we do it. The truth is, though, everybody can't have a championship ring. I mean, that's what makes them special, right? That's what makes it significant. That's what makes a championship ring a championship ring. They don't give out participation championship rings. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't get one just for showing up. You got to earn it. You got to win the last game of the season. You got to go the distance. You got to finish the whole thing. You got to beat the best. That's the way it works. And if you don't get a ring. Now, your fans might get a ring because we're in it with them. We are the Braves, you know what I'm saying? Like, with this whole thing, we're a family here, The truth is, the rarer something is, the more significant it becomes. Only one team can finish in first place. Only one team gets the ring. There's only 150 of those things. They gave them away last Monday. They're going to give them away two more nights, May 23rd and June 8th. Not that I'm keeping track. And that's it. The rarer something is, the more significant it becomes. Maybe that's why the religious leaders were so scared of Jesus. Because he was so rare. And maybe they started to realize that everyone else around started recognizing how rare he was compared to other religious leaders of the day. And that was so significant. He was so special because of it. People started flocking to him, and his followership went through the roof. And as that followership started to grow and started to gain momentum, they're like, man, we got to do something. This is no good. We do not like this. Jesus was rare. He was a singular voice, pointing in a direction no one else was looking, and gathering people to follow him. And the religious leaders of the day wanted nothing to do with it. In fact, there's this moment where Jesus is doing Jesus things. He's changing people's lives. He's transforming people's hearts and minds. He's giving them new thought processes. He's moving them in a completely different direction than their life was previously headed on. And we pick up, he's got a good friend. His name is John. And John is one of the closest friends that Jesus has, and he writes down some of the interactions he has in and around his own life with Jesus. And he tells us about a moment when Jesus is doing some pretty incredible things. And some people are excited about it, right? That followership is growing, but there are still some that are very loyal to the way things used to be. They're very loyal to the religious institution that already exists, and so they're not pumped about it. And so John tells us about one instance. In John chapter 11, verse 46, he says this, "But some of them went to the Pharisees are the religious leaders of the day, and told them what Jesus had done. Then the chief priests and the Pharisees called a meeting of the Sanhedrin. 'What are we accomplishing?' they asked. 'Here is this man performing many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and then the Romans will come and take away both our temple and our nation.'" And so this crowd brings this information to these Pharisees, these religious leaders, and like, hey, this is what Jesus is doing. This is what Jesus just did. And people are going nuts over it. People are starting to follow Jesus in numbers we've never seen before. And so they get together and say, you know what, let's call all the big thinkers together. And so they kind of call together like the Supreme Court for religious people, for the Jewish nation at the time, called the Sanhedrin. And they have this conversation like, this is what's happening. What are we going to do? What are we going to do about this? We've got to do something. They're worried about two things. It says, if we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and then the Romans will come and take away both our temple and our nation. So the Jewish nation at this time, while they're in their land is owned and occupied by the Roman Empire. And so now Rome allows the Jewish nation to do their own thing, to even govern themselves. They can still have the temple that they want. They can still worship how they want. They can still interact with the temple how they want. They can still tell people what to do in regards to religious rituals and customs. And the Romans don't care. As long as they're paying taxes, as long as they're not doing this huge upheaval of riots, it's fine. You can have your own life. That's fine. Just pay us taxes. And so that's what's happening. So they say, hey, if he continues on this road, Rome is going to come in and take those two things from us. Take our nation. They're going to take our temple. They're going to take our identity as a people. They're going to take our moneymaker. This is the way we provide for ourselves. That council, the Sanhedrin, this is the way we function. And they'll take both of them away from us if we do not stop Jesus. We continue in verse 49. And then one of them, named Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, spoke up. "You know nothing at all. You do not realize that it is better for you that one man die for the people than the whole nation perish." And so it's logical. Like, okay, all right, we're getting some pretty good logic. Like, if we see what's at stake, our entire nation and identity as a people is at stake. And so let's talk about this, guys. Wouldn't it be good? Wouldn't it be good to get rid of Jesus? We just lose one guy and we save the entire nation of Israel. And I get it that Jesus isn't guilty of anything. He hasn't done anything morally wrong. And so from a moral standpoint, we really can't kill him and be justified. But at the end of the day, isn't it just logical that it makes sense, that we can see where this is going. We can see how this is no good for us. And so let's step in. Let's make it not happen. Let's unjustifiably kill him. Let's immorally kill him. And while that is bad, it is for the greater good. Every once in a while, people, you've got to do something absolutely wrong because that's going to help you do something absolutely right. That's just the way the world works, right? That's what they convince themselves of. Let's do something completely wrong to protect something that we feel is so completely right. And then we get to verse 53. So from that day on, they plotted to take his life. And they did. They did take his life. We call it Good Friday. And they hung him between two criminals because they created criminality in him. They found him guilty, and the punishment was death. And they killed him. And so every week at Foundation, we typically close our gathering by remembering Good Friday. And we take communion together. It was, as you walked in, it was on the table out there. Typically, we take it at the end, and you just kind of take it whenever you want to, and rules apply, same thing today. You can take it whenever you want. When the band's playing later, you can take it now in just a moment. I'm going to take it with you. So it's up to you. If you miss communion on your way in, we've got volunteers in the back right now. So if you slip up your hand, they'll run it to you. If you're disconnected from faith and you're like, hey, I don't even know if I believe Jesus actually died on the cross, I don't even know if that's a thing, then I would encourage you just to focus in and begin to pray, just to think thoughts in God's direction as we're walking through this. And I don't think it's a bad thing for you to ask the question, Jesus, are you real? Jesus, are you there? That's a really good question to ask as you're sitting here in church. It's not an invalid question. In fact, I encourage you to ask in your brain, to start asking, God, are you here? Jesus, are you real? So when I think through communion, it's really two really small, basic things. The first piece, we talk about it being bread, but it's really like styrofoam. Yeah, I just broke mine and half that styrofoam fell on the ground. The truth is, it really doesn't matter what you use. It matters what you remember. For those of you who are watching online at home, and you don't have to have bread or juice or anything, it's just, again, what you remember. This helps us with the remembering piece. And so when I think through this little piece of bread here, I'm thinking about Jesus hanging there on the cross and the weight of his own body causing him not to be able to breathe, where he pulls at the nails in his wrists as hard as he can so he can lift himself up enough just to get a breath of fresh air. Excruciating pain, but one that's a price that's worth paying because every breath becomes precious as you're being crucified. And I think through that moment, and I become grateful that Jesus gave his body for me. That's what I think about when I eat the bread. Jesus eventually stops breathing, and he dies, and his organs shut down, and his body's lifeless, and he's still hanging there on the cross. And to make sure that he's dead, they go and they take a spear with a real sharp tip on it, and they stab it into the side of his rib cage right towards his heart. And when they rip the spear back out, it creates a fairly good-sized hole, and blood and water pour out of the side of it onto the dirt ground below. And it just pours out of the side of him right down his leg, and it just begins to pool in the dirt at the bottom of the cross. When I drink the grape juice, that's what I think about. Jesus' blood poured out for us. Now, while I think it's important that we remember that Jesus did die on the cross, I also think it's really important for you to know why they killed him. There's 3 reasons that I'm going to fly through, where I'm going to take a 40-minute talk from Friday, which is where we flesh this out, and I'm going to do it in about the next 90 seconds. So hang on with me. There's 3 major reasons that they put Jesus on the cross. None of these were expressly against the law in terms of you could kill someone for it, but they figured out a way to pull it off. The first one was he had a lack of respect for their religious traditions. He went so far in terms of the Sabbath, which was a big deal for the Jewish people. It was something that God talked about. It was part of the law. And it was supposed to be a day where you rested, and it was for rejuvenation, and it's for spiritual moments. And so Jesus was caught a couple of times doing some things that the religious leaders said, hey, this is not what you're supposed to be doing on the Sabbath. In fact, this is the exact opposite of what you're doing. If you're a rabbi, if you're a good teacher, if you're the special person, why are you not following the rules? Why are you not following the laws and the traditions? And Jesus just looks back at him and says, hey, it's really simple. I mean, if you had a lamb, right, if you had a sheep, and it fell into a pit on the Sabbath, even though the law says you're not supposed to get in there, do you really just leave the sheep in the pit? Do you just tell it, hey, sorry, I'll catch you on Sunday, right? Like, hope you're all right, just chill, you know? And then he goes and said, of course, it's okay for you to do good on the Sabbath. And he says, if it's okay to save a sheep on the Sabbath, how much more important are people? So you're telling me that when I interact with people in a positive way that's not just completely resting on the Sabbath, I'm doing wrong? And Jesus says, here's the deal, guys. The Sabbath was created for people. People were not created to honor the Sabbath. It's the opposite. And they saw this, among other things, as just a complete disrespect for the religious traditions, customs that they had. And the second reason they killed Jesus was because he gave significant time and attention to those the religious community rejected. In those days, in the first century, they would call these people tax collectors and sinners. In common modern day terms, it would be people who would cheat or swindle you and people who were disconnected from faith. And so they made the logical step that said, if Jesus is a really special rabbi, if Jesus is a really special teacher, that if he has any extra time, he ought to be engaging people who are interested in engaging on a spiritual level. And people who are cheats and swindlers and disconnected from faith, they don't have an interest. So why would you go and pursue them? Why would you invest in them? Once they figure it out, they can come to you and then they can jump in. But you are wasting time, Jesus. You are wasting your gifts. You are wasting your speech. You are wasting your knowledge and thought on people who don't matter. They've made their choice. And Jesus shows up and says, I disagree. He says, it's the sick who need a doctor. People who are well don't go hang out in hospitals. You know what people who are well do in hospitals? They take care of the sick. So he invested time and relationship bandwidth in people disconnected from God, and they were furious about it. How dare he? The third reason they killed Jesus was he offered a way to connect with God that did not require their rituals and religious systems. He offered a way to connect with God that did not require their rituals and religious systems. You see, up until this point, they had a step-by-step process of what it looked like to engage with the holy God. And you followed these steps to the letter, to the law, and then you could only get so far because the truth is that us common folk, we're not good enough. And so then a priest took it the rest of the way. And so you followed these steps, you went into this thing, and you just decided, hey, I'm going to follow it to the letter. And that's the only way I can connect with God. And Jesus shows up and says, hey, that was really good for a while. And that served a purpose. But there's a new day coming, and we're not going to continue to do those things anymore because I'm here. He says, I'm your way. In fact, he's so bold, he says, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. And no one gets to the Father except through me. So the religious leaders are like, well, if that's the truth, what do we do with all this other stuff we've built? And why would people continue to come to the temple? Why would they do that then? Why would people continue to give money? Why would people continue to do any of these things if they just need Jesus? What they had failed to realize is that a healthy church and a healthy religious system is a result of Jesus, not a way to Jesus. That you can't give money to get to Jesus, but you do become generous in the way that you live after you've had a relationship with Jesus and you realize, you know what, there are people I can help in this world, and I'm going to see needs I never saw before because I see them through the eyes of Jesus. That I'm going to volunteer in my community in a way that I never would have been, because it was inconvenient before, but I enjoy being inconvenienced in my life because it stretches me, because I see my community the way Jesus sees me or sees the community. And so people engage in opportunities to be a part of a system, a cleanup system, or an engagement system, but it's because of Jesus, not to get to Jesus. And they just couldn't see that. Jesus offered himself, and so on Good Friday, they killed him. But the truth is, they weren't done with just killing him, because memory can be a powerful motivator. We fast forward just a day to another friend of Jesus that was one of the guys that completely transformed his life. Matthew was a tax collector. He was one of those cheats, those swindlers, those really good at math guys, and probably a really smooth talker. And this is what he says about how this worked. He says in Matthew 27, the next day, the one after preparation day, the chief priests and the Pharisees went to Pilate. Sir, they said, we remember that while he was still alive, talking about Jesus, while he was still alive, the deceiver said, after 3 days, I will rise again. So give the order for the tomb to be made secure until the third day. Otherwise, his disciples may come and steal the body and tell the people that he has been raised from the dead. This last deception will be worse than the first. Take a guard, Pilate answered. Go make the tomb as secure as you know how. So they went and made the tomb secure by putting a seal on the stone and posting the guard. And so the religious leaders, they're thinking back and they're like, you know what, we've killed him, check. But what we need to make sure we actually kill is not just the man, we need to kill the memory too. And so as we kind of take a look at this, as we take a look at what we're going to do, we're going to partner with our already existing partnership and go to the Romans and say, hey, here's the deal. When it comes to spiritual things, we got you. However, when it comes to brute force strength, the Romans got it. You know, y'all got that fancy thing where you're like, shield wall. And it's like, yeah, let's get it. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all do that really well. We need one of those to stop these fishermen and that tax collector and a couple funny brothers. We need to stop them from getting in the tomb, because this is how these followers work. They are nuts. They're like kamikaze brothers, a couple of them. I mean, they are nuts. And they're going to break in, they're going to steal the body, and they're going to weekend at Bernie's, that bad boy, all around town. And then everybody's going to be like, oh, I saw Jesus. So we got to stop that, so let's not do it. So post the guard. Let the 3 days pass. And then we'll prove once and for all. Not only did we kill him, we killed the memory, because the truth is, it wasn't enough to kill the man. They knew they had to kill the movement. They knew that a movement of Jesus' followers would be unstoppable, even if Jesus was dead. So church, I ask you today, how much more knowing he's alive? How is our movement going? You know, when I read this particular passage, I actually get a lot of grace and mercy that builds up in me, and some understanding for the religious leaders. Like I'm walking through the process of how they kind of get, they get the decision makers together. They got these decision makers together like, hey, let's get this Roman guard. Let's go ask Pilate, give us this brute strength, a little bit of muscle. That's what's going to happen. And we're going to prep for this. right? We're not going to let anybody get in here. We're going to have this conversation, and we're going to stop the movement. We're going to stop the memory. We've already stopped the man, but that's what we're going to do. And when I hear them talk about that, it's like, yeah, you really did have no idea, did you? Like they really thought it was over, that the last step was just simply to stop theft. That's it. That's all they needed to do. And that makes me feel a little bit better about them. They really were clueless. They did all of their prep to make sure that no one could get in. They had no clue that someone was actually going to bust out. You know, I can imagine these conversations that are happening. These Roman soldiers have gathered, you know, and they're like scouting out, you know, like a security team, like an advanced team of Secret Service before the president comes into town. Like they're walking around the tomb, kind of taking, like, what's the best angle? Which way would they come from if they're going to try to get in? Like they're going through these scenarios. They're practicing their shield wall together. They're like, hey, left flank, and they're like moving. They're doing like that's what I'm picturing's happening. The Bible doesn't say that at all. This is just my imagination. I don't know. That's what I would do if I was a Roman soldier, right? I'd be doing shield wall all the time. Shield wall. I just get pumped doing it right now, you know? That's what I'd be doing. They're probably making fun of the disciples. There's probably someone there that's super skeptical. It's like, man, this is overkill. Just me and Johnny could take the fishermen. What the rest of y'all gonna do, you know? Maybe they got profiles and manila folders they're going through, and like this fisherman, he hauled in a big old grouper that one time. He's got some muscle. They put a wax seal around the stone, covering the entrance, making sure you could tell that it was not disturbed. And again, they had no clue what they actually needed to prepare for was coming from behind them. And so the sun sets. The garden tomb gets dark. The soldiers aren't fighting sleep because they're the best soldiers in the world. They wouldn't dare fall asleep on watch. Their ears are tuned to something rustling in the woods and the bushes nearby, but they don't hear a thing. They don't hear a thing because no one's coming. You see, there's not a friend or follower of Jesus that had enough courage to try and break through that stone barrier, past those Roman soldiers and take that body. Nobody was thinking about visiting that tomb that night. So it gets just dark. It's early Sunday morning now, and the dew has settled on the ground. The sky is turning pink towards the east. The birds are starting to chirp. This was a rich man's tomb, and so I can imagine flowers and maybe a little rock bench for people to sit that would come visit. Nature's waking up. The world's coming to life. It's no longer Saturday. It's no longer a day of silence. We've moved into Sunday, the day of movement. And Matthew tells it this way. He says, in fact, it wasn't just people that moved. 28 verse 2 says, there was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven and going to the tomb rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning and his clothes were white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. And Jesus walks out. Now, as I'm walking through this as the angel. Like, an angel's coming down, and he's got this white like lightning deal. And then Matthew tells us that they were so afraid they froze, and they just were paralyzed in fear, like completely couldn't move. The expression is, and they were like dead men laying on the ground. And I'm just imagining the angel walking up and seeing these Roman soldiers and going, shield wall. You know? And Jesus leaves his grave clothes behind, and he puts his physical bare feet on the dirt floor. As he looks down, he sees the scar on his feet. I don't know if it's big enough to see through his feet to see the dirt floor, but sure enough, he sees the scar. He looks at his wrists, and those scars are still there. He's going to have a buddy of his really have a tough time here in a few days, and he's going to ask to actually put his hands in them just to make sure it's really Jesus. And so he sees those, and he begins to walk out of the tomb where he was very much so dead, organs completely shut down. The decomposition process had already begun. He was well into it. And yet he's leaving footprints in the dirt. You see, ain't no grave going to keep him in the ground. Life had been drained as the spear pierced his side on Friday, allowing blood and water to release from his already dead body. And on that Good Friday, Jesus said, I'll take your sin and take it to a very specific place. I'm not just going to take it on me on the cross and leave it on the cross. That's not a good place for sin. We always talk about, let's take our sin to the cross, but Jesus ain't on the cross no more because Jesus already took the sin. Jesus said, put me on the cross, put the sin on me, and then what I need you to do is put me in a grave because that's where sin belongs. And it wasn't just the sin of the world in the past, it was the sin of the world in the future and the present that was staring right at him. And before you even considered disobeying or getting out of step with God, he said, I've got that sin, it's on me, and I'm putting it in the grave. You got a drug addiction right now? Jesus says, I got you, and I put it in the grave. You got secrets? Jesus says, I know them, and I've still got you, even with all your secrets. You got alcohol dependence? You've had a few too many times, a bit too often. You begin to lose control, and you're slacking a bit, and people are seeing a behavior change. They've tried to say something to you, but you get a little ornery about it. Jesus says, I see you in the midst of it, and I've still got you. Are you thinking about being unfaithful to your spouse? There's already been some text messages or some phone calls that probably shouldn't have happened, and you're in the middle of that process. Jesus says, I see you. I've read them all. I've heard them all, and I still died for you. And he's asking you right now to stop. He's asking you to stop. Because today is Movement Sunday. Because today is Movement Sunday. It's time for those of you who are struggling with alcohol dependency and addiction, or maybe you've had a surgery and someone gave you some pills that were pretty strong that helped you out in the moment, and you've held on to them just in case, but you really don't have a surgery just in case, but you've held on to them anyway just in case it's a rainy day and you've had a hard night, and you held on to them anyway just in case. And you realize your just in case starts being every day, but at the end of the day, no doctor's going to sign a prescription, and so you start finding them other ways. Jesus has got you. And he said, I put it on the cross and I put it in the grave. So stop. Let's make today Movement Sunday. Stop. Let's make today Movement Sunday. You've been waiting. You know you need to stop. You know you need to put it in the grave. You've been waiting for an opportunity to start over. Today is it. Maybe you've even asked God, give me a sign. Here's your sign. I'm saying it out loud. Stop. Reach out to somebody who desperately cares for you and say, hey, here's the deal. This is my issue. I can't stop. Tell them I can't stop. Invite someone else into your struggle. Mistakes that can't be undone because they're in the past. He knew those were coming. He's seen all of them. And he wants you to know for sure he died for them. If you've been an absent father or an absent mother, that's on his list too. He died for that. Stop. Engage. Today's Movement Sunday. You got regrets? Check. Regrets? Check. The shame that you feel that makes you believe you don't deserve to get better, be better, have better, live better, love better, feel better. He died for all that too. But the truth is, he's saying, the truth is I didn't just die for it. I came back to life for it. And when he walked out of the grave, he made a promise to you that you can put whatever you're struggling with, struggling against, that you can make sure it stays in a grave as well. That his resurrection is giving us power and opportunity. Because your worst days, they're worth dying for. But your worst days are also worth living for. And so I have a question. What do you think about all this? Now, I don't mean collectively, what do you think? I mean, what do you think? What do you think? Donnie, what do you think? Dad, what do you think? Chris, what do you think? Miss Pam, what do you think? Because what you think matters. Because God created you uniquely. And he wants to have a relationship with you. You as a person. Bailey, with you. Individually, with you. Not with your church. Not with your community. Not with the county. Not with the country. With you. With you. So when I ask you, what do you think? What you think about this matters. Because this isn't Movement Sunday for Foundation. It's Movement Sunday for you. For you. Your life. Your relationships. Your dependence or independence. You. We always think Jesus died for our sins. And while that is a true statement, the better statement is he died for your sins. He died for my sins. And then we have a promise. This church planner named Paul, he has an opportunity to kind of live in the reality of a resurrected Jesus, a physically resurrected Jesus. And he goes on to write this to a group of people that were trying to figure out what a spiritual movement looked like. In fact, he was writing to the Romans. And he's writing to this group that's trying to have movement spiritually, that's trying to move in a spiritual direction. And he has an incredible couple of lines that are not only promised to the Romans, but also promised to us. And this is what he says. He says, but if Christ is in you, even though your body is subject to death because of sin, the Spirit gives life because of righteousness. And if the Spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of his Spirit who lives in you. He says, here's the reality. Jesus came because we legit have a sin problem. There's no way of getting around it. And he put it on the cross, but it didn't stay on the cross. He took himself and the sin with it, and he put it in the grave. So we got a sin issue, but we also got a sin solution. And so there's this reality because of the resurrection. We then get in this tension of, we have this penalty to pay, which is death. But we have this freedom that is given because the Spirit brings righteousness into our life. Even when we don't deserve it. Even though it wasn't our right doing, it was Jesus' right doing. His right doing becomes our right doing. And we get his righteousness. And because of his righteousness, we get to be called sons and daughters of the Most High God. And with that, it's not even enough to be sons and daughters of the Most High God. That's not even enough. The good news is that with righteousness, even though it doesn't belong to us, when we embrace it, righteousness comes with resurrection. You see, we celebrate Movement Day, we celebrate Easter today, but it's not because there was one Easter, one Movement Day, one resurrection. We celebrate today because there's one still coming. They're still coming around the bend, and it's not a Jesus resurrection. It's your resurrection. It's my resurrection. It's our resurrection, and we have an opportunity, an invitation to say, I want a piece of that resurrection. I know I didn't earn it. I know it ain't because of anything I've done, but I have the opportunity to accept the invitation to move in God's direction. See, the truth is, you ask the question. You ask the question. If everybody gets a chance to get a resurrection day, does that make it any less valuable? No. Because the resurrection is the prize. Jesus is the prize. And there's only one of him. And so there ain't a million, there ain't a trillion, it's just the one. And so you get a resurrection, and your resurrection prize is Jesus. And you get a resurrection, Margaret, and the prize is Jesus. And you get a resurrection, Chester, and the prize is Jesus. And you get a resurrection, and you get a resurrection, and you get a resurrection. It's on the table. It's up to you. It's your movement day. Or maybe it's your stuck in the mud day. Or maybe it's really your movement day. So move. Don't stand there. No, better yet, don't sit there. If you want to move, if you want to begin moving, stand up. If you want to begin moving, stand up. If you want to move in the direction of Jesus, stand up. So start moving. Because today is movement day. Today is the day we celebrate the idea that resurrection is for us all. And with that, we have more than happiness. We got something that outlasts the whole thing. You and I, we get resurrection power and resurrection joy. Let's sing it together, church.
We worship the God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. My God, he holds the victory. Yeah. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We're gonna shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is early in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. Oh, oh, we're gonna shout out your praise. Let's sing. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause he hung up on that cross and he rose up from that grave. My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We're gonna shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We're gonna shout out your praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by his grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. Sing it again. We were the beggars, and now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, and now we're running free.
Happy Movement Sunday. Happy Movement Sunday. We'll throw that slide up there. Oh, it's already up there. Screenshot it, because the truth is, I know that mud's sometimes hard to get out of. Or maybe yours is quicksand, and you won't figure out that you need to move till Tuesday. Tuesday's just as good a day to move. Ain't nothing special about movement on Sundays. But if the thought process begins today and you follow through for the first time and you begin that spiritual conversation on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, middle of the night, it's up to you. Take the number down, text the word, we'll jump on it with you. We'll jump on it with you. Now, it's been 338 days. 338 days since we went under contract to purchase the old Wells Fargo building in downtown Newnan. So we met here at Newnan High School since we launched in January of 2018. We met in the auditorium, and the kids were all spread out through the front wing and all those classrooms and down the side hallway. And this was home. So it felt incredible to be able to have the opportunity to be back here today. The Newnan High School administration, Randy Robbins and Dr. Chase Puckett, are always incredible to work with, but they were super generous in allowing us to be here today on a holiday and allow us to have access to the building. We loaded in Friday night after the Good Friday event. Our staff was able to be here yesterday to work on and try to get the room ready, because obviously this is much more than what we would typically do at Ruth Hill, because there's just more people, there's way more chairs, all those things. And so they gave us so much leniency, and so we're grateful for the partnership we have here at the high school, for sure. It's been 338 days since we went under contract. I'm excited to tell you today that we've got 21 days to go before our grand opening. So, if you're new with us, let me go ahead and set some expectations. We have a building in downtown Newnan. We refer to it as Base Camp. We don't call it the church. We don't call it the church building. We call it Base Camp. And the reason is because as followers of Jesus, we need to set up some reminders in our own lives to remember what it looks like to follow Jesus. And it never is healthy for us to have a building that's more important than a Savior. And so when we call it Base Camp, because it's a place that things begin. Missions begin at Base Camp. It's never a destination. And so part of our mission statement is that people are the destination. Jesus is in the lead, but people are the destination. If you were to go to Everest and try to climb Mount Everest, and you got to Base Camp, you can't even see the mountain. And I think that is perfect, because the truth is that when you're inside Base Camp, you will never see the destination. Church is not the destination. People are our destination. And so forever, we will have to explain this to people over and over again. I've already had people say, "Are you changing your name to Base Camp?" No, I changed our name to Base Camp. It's a reminder for people like me that often focus on Jesus, but then get super easily distracted. Squirrel, church building, this is cool, this is shiny. And it's a reminder, stop. Where's Jesus? Now, here's the truth. We've done everything on our end to make this work. All of our preliminary talks have gone well, and the preliminary walkthroughs have gone well. We've had an incredible GC and crew that's helped us navigate this entire process over the last 338 days, and we are grateful for that. And all of those things are in the right place. Now, the city still has to say, "Hey, check box, you can move in." And so anything can happen, but so far the city has been incredible to work with, super gracious, given above and beyond, honestly, in terms of advice and consulting. The city has been incredible. And so right now, here's our plan. We had to make a decision. So we have a normal Sunday morning routine where we gather and we prepare Sunday morning experiences for people on the weekends. That's one of the things that we do as a church. We serve in the community. That's a pretty huge deal, especially because Teacher Appreciation Week is coming up May 1st, that first full week of May. And so we've got things planned throughout that whole week. And then we have a brand new space, Base Camp, where we need to do some training, some installation pieces. There's still some landscaping that's got to be done. And then there's some systems training for teams and security to make this whole building function, because it's just different than us renting a space. And so we don't have the capacity to do all three. So what we're doing is we're not giving up Teacher Appreciation Week and sending the ice cream truck out and sending volunteers and staff to love on teachers. We're not cutting that. We're not cutting the rest of our community engagement piece. And we can't cut preparation from Base Camp. So what we are cutting is Sunday morning gatherings for the next 2 weeks. So we won't gather. There's nothing online. There's nothing. If you're on a team, those teams are going to be meeting at base camp for the next 2 weeks, the 24th and the 1st, and your team leads will reach out to start getting you through the training and tell you, hey, this is how we're going to operate church inside of base camp on a Sunday morning type basis. And it's going to take a little bit of coordination and obviously you see there's a lot of people here, and so moving the base camp building's 18,000 square foot. This thing is enormous compared to what we have over there. So it's just going to take a little coordination. And so for the next 2 weeks, those teams will gather. If you want a sneak peek at base camp and see, well, you should go join a team, you know? You should go join a team. There's a blue tent right outside. You can go join a team. We probably could use another 55 folks to fill out to our optimum level. Man, we feel incredible about every team. So you're not on a team and you want to jump in on Sunday mornings, go to the blue tent. Go to the blue tent. There's room on teams to jump in to get base camp prepped and ready for the community. So for the next 2 weeks, there's no Sunday morning gatherings. I know, it's nuts. It's absolutely just crazy. How do you have Easter and then not gather for 2 weeks? Well, we can't do it all, and we're not giving up Teacher Appreciation Week. So that's still happening, and we just can't do it all. So that's where we're at. Now, if something changes, the city gets with us and says, hey, there's this big, huge red flag. We've never seen it before. You never saw it before, but here it is. You got to fix it. We'll communicate it. And if we need to go back to Ruth Hill, we can still go back to Ruth Hill, right? But as of right now, that's the plan. We're marching forward. No gatherings the next 2 weeks, nothing online, nothing in person. There's training on the weekends for teams. Team leads will get involved with you. If you want to serve, if you want to jump in on Teacher Appreciation Week or any of the ice cream truck opportunities, you can go to the Church Center app and you can sign up for all of them. And there'll be more added in the next couple of days that aren't quite on there just yet, but you'll be able to sign up for those as well. Cool? If you've got any questions at all, I'll be outside. Our staff is around, and so you can ask me those things. I'll be in between the blue and green tent, and you can holler at me there. Church, here's the truth. We are on a mission to create a You Belong Here movement where people are the destination and Jesus is in the lead. If you're first time with us, head to the green tent right now. We want to give you a Mad Mexican gift card. I'll see you at base camp on the 8th.